Hi, so today we have here a video review of the Huawei Huawei Ideos with Google. This phone was purchased for $159 at a Dick Smith store, and that came with a free 2 gigabyte micro SDHC, and this was the slip that Virgin put over it. And it says Android operating system, 2.8 inch touchscreen, smart and fast internet experience. And we have the little green Android guy. Oh, isn't he cute? With that aside, we'll have a look at the box. By no means is this an unboxing video, as I purchased this phone last week on a weekend, and I was too excited to actually do an unboxing video. Just quickly here, we have the phone, the headphone, the USB cable, and the charger, and I'll go through that later on. And here's the box. It says here, made in China, but don't worry, a lot of phones are made in China anyway. Firstly, I'll talk about the brand. The Huawei brand is actually not unfamiliar with me, as I'm well aware that they have been making USB Wi-Fi dongles, and they have actually made USB hotspots. The brand may be relatively unknown for most, but if you have a look at those Wi-Fi USB dongles, you can actually sometimes see that it is actually branded Huawei. The box actually reminds me of an iPhone box or an iPod, as my dad has one, and the phone was meant to be here, and it says Ideos. The packaging is quite nice. The cardboard is quite thick. It doesn't scream cheap. And inside comes the warranty card, and this is actually not really thin, but thin enough paper, thicker than Bible paper. Safety information booklet, fold out, and an Ideos quick start guide. It actually doesn't have a manual, so those that are new to Android, you are being thrown in the deep end pretty much. And I've kept my packaging here, as I just like keeping original stuff. And that was the micro USB adapter that came with the free 2 gig as well. Put that back inside, and I'll introduce you to the headphones. The headphones, they feel relatively cheap, to be honest. The gold plug, or gold plated, or at least it looks gold, and the button, the mouthpiece, the one with the speaker. You can see here that little circle, and this is the button. If you can hear it, and this is quoting from my friend. He actually said that he said the plastic feels like those plastic that you press and it's meant to break off. But yeah, I mean, if I wanted my own headphones, if I were going to listen to music with the phone, I'll be using my own headphones anyway. I don't use headphones that come with the machine, the phone, unless it's a proprietary one. And here is the charger with the USB at the side. It says Huawei as well, and this is 2-pin instead of 3, so there is no ground. But that doesn't matter because there is no metal on the phone, so if you touch it whilst it's charging with wet hands or anything, you won't get zapped and you won't die. And this is the USB cable, which you can plug into the phone or into that charger over there, or you can plug into your computer. And here's the phone. First impressions of it was that it actually looked pretty decent. I'll introduce the technical specifications of this phone first. The screen is a 2.8 inch capacitive touchscreen with 4 capacitive buttons as well. The back button, menu button, home, and search button. and that's just a central select button, and that actually lights up your screen. And you have a pickup button, hang up button, which also serves as a home button or just exiting everything. And the silver circle you see here is actually a directional pad, which is actually quite useful. Don't laugh at the fact that they put that there so they could fill up space instead of putting a big screen. Sometimes if you're texting or you're browsing the web and you enter a wrong text, using the D-pad actually helps you get to the word much easier than fiddling around with the screen and trying to tap to the right place where you want to make your correction. At the bottom there's a proprietary USB, and next to that is actually not a microphone. That is where you put the phone, where you tie up the phone cables, those dangly things that a lot of girls like. And on the side, that's the volume button. There is no plus or minus on it, so it's just two buttons, silver. And at the back, you see that's another camera lens, a camera lens through a camera lens. That's interesting. And the bottom, the two holes, is a loudspeaker with Google Ideos. Actually, on the phone, it doesn't show the brand Huawei on it at all. The top here, right there, where my finger is actually a power button and the 3.5mm headphone jack. With that aside, I'll open the back of my phone, show you the battery. Huawei 1200 mAh, 3.7 volts, and right there is the micro SD slot. And unfortunately, if you want to remove it, you actually have to remove the battery. And that's the camera. Now to introduce the phone itself. Pressing the middle button will light up the screen, as with pressing the power button. And you can see here. So scrolling to the side panels or home papers or whatever you like to call it is actually quite smooth, as you can probably see here. There's 4, and I'll load up the app menu here. And scrolling through the app menu is pretty smooth as well. However, even though this is a 2.2 Android operating system, it doesn't have the animations that the Nexus 1 Google has. Most likely because due to the slower CPU that the phone possesses. The phone is 3G capable, so you can browse the internet faster, but it doesn't have a front camera, so don't expect to be able to make video calls. How about let me show you the Angry Birds. Angry Birds actually runs on this phone. However, you have to lock the screen when the app loads, and then unlock it as there's some bug with it that actually doesn't display the app properly. And as you can see here, it's probably taking a few seconds to load. Okay, and I lock my screen and I'm unlocking it to make the app work. And that's at the loudest play. Angry Birds actually does run on this phone, but it doesn't run at a 100% smooth frame rate. So if you are looking to purchase an Android phone just to play the Angry Birds game, I suggest you to look elsewhere. But there are actually some games that the Huawei Ideos actually runs perfectly fine. Apps like air traffic control, and I just have a text message. You can pull down the notifications here, and here's a phone dialer. Some may say that 528 megahertz is not enough for an Android phone, but because this phone is an Android 2.2 and is not customized by the manufacturer, this is pure stock Android 2.2, that actually makes the phone not as bad as other phones that have been customized by their manufacturer that are in the same price segment as this phone. Namely the LG Optimus, Samsung Galaxy S, and the HTC Wildfire. Oh, and X10 Mini and the X8. I'll load up the browser so you can have a look at the browsing speed with 3G on right now. And I have installed Dolphin Mini instead of using the default browser, as I think I had some trouble saving a password with the default browser with Virgin. But I think that's just because due to some APN setting, which should be fine on other phones. But if that's a main problem with you, there's always apps on the market that you can look to download. And here I'll open up a thread. Hang on. You can zoom in. I'll just put that down for a second. And here it has loaded already. Sorry for the lighting, as I have poor cameraman skills. I'm trying to do two jobs at once. But that's no excuse. Okay, there were some apps that were already pre-installed. Apps that came with the phone included the default browser, a clock, Facebook, an email app, a Gmail app as well, Google search, and of course you have access to the market, and a navigation software which actually works almost indifferent from a GPS that you can buy in the stores. You have a calculator app as well, Twitter, Google voice search, and YouTube in the bottom left. So there are actually some social networking apps that are already installed, so you don't have to download it. Take you through the market and browsing the market. There are a lot of free apps out there that are pretty decent. I've actually never bought an app myself yet, as I don't want to spend extra money on apps just for a phone. But yeah, this is your 2.2.x market look, I think. And here you can see that these are all my apps that I've installed, which is actually quite a lot, I reckon. But nevertheless, we'll have a look at another aspect of the phone, the messaging part. The phone keeps messages in threads, which is very different to older dumb phones. So what you can do here is have a look, and it actually works pretty much like an instant messaging program on the computer. The GPS of this actually worked very well. I've sort of tested it on a drive from Sydney to Wollongong. I loaded it up. It took a while to connect to the satellites, admittedly, but after that it actually went pretty well and took me to where I wanted to. However, I must say that the voice sounded really robotic, and I did have some trouble understanding what it was trying to say. And with Android phones, you can change your wallpaper. You can make it a live wallpaper. There are some live wallpapers that you can actually fiddle around with, like Nexus. if I load it. But live wallpapers will, depending on how heavy they are, they will slightly lag up the Ideos. After all, it's a phone, it's an entry-level phone. For $159, you can't really ask for much more. Well, at least I don't. You can set wallpapers with your pictures as well, but I won't go through that. The camera is 3.2 megapixel fixed focus. I'm not sure if I've been through that before, which also means that you can't focus on a picture before you take it, so the photo quality is reduced. But I bought this phone because I needed a new phone, not for the fact that I actually wanted a better camera. If I wanted to take photos, I actually will use my camera, which I actually, to be honest, don't find much point for camera phones because it's more of a gimmick than anything else. I'll go through another game. This one's called Armored Strike, and this one actually doesn't lag compared to the Angry Birds app. However, there are actually some apps that doesn't run or work on this phone, or you actually can't see it in the market because... What is this? Enjoying the game. That hasn't popped up before. Oh, it says rated or not. Oh, I'll see. I'll rate it. But yeah, there are actually some apps that don't work because the screen is a QVGA resolution, which is 320 pixels by 240 pixels, which is substantially less than a lot of phones on the market. But those phones are most of them are largely high-end phones. If you're talking about entry-level phones, this phone is pretty much the standard resolution of most phones. And I'll load this game so you can just have a look at the speed of how things run. Excuse me. This app works pretty fine. However, there is some part of it that's just cut off due to the resolution, but the part that's cut off is luckily not important. However, lighter apps such as what's that, air traffic controller game, whatever it's called, flight control, I don't know, the really famous one, but yeah. As you can see here, that's my tank, my enemy's tank, and you see side scrolling is relatively smooth. And here it is my turn to destroy the tanks, and I'll just fire this mortar and I'll watch the enemy play. This game is much like the Worms games, and you can see the mortar actually flew pretty smooth. There's not much lag factor in this game, but whether it runs smooth or a bit laggy on the phone really depends on how demanding the phone is. After all, this is a 528 MHz CPU phone with 512 internal memory ROM, which is mostly taken up by the operating system, and a 256 megabyte RAM. I've had no issues with the RAM, the amount of RAM, as I don't know, actually. Just haven't had any problems. But I've installed some widgets here. There's a version usage meter, and right there is actually a battery app, a battery widget. It displays how much battery you have left. Battery life on the Ideos is not that bad. Right now on 58%, and I've last unplugged the phone for 9 hours since unplugged, so 58%. So essentially 42% of the battery lasted for 9 hours. So if you double that, 84%, which is 18 hours, and then add another 16%, which would be 20 or so hours of just slightly fiddling around with the phone. Slightly fiddling around with the phone. For example, going on the internet during recess, or playing some games in the library at lunchtime, texting my few friends, my mates, and making a phone call to Mum, my little sister. And that's about it for today's usage. Yeah. Side scrolling, like I said, it's pretty fine, so you're not going to be disappointed. Yeah. We'll leave it there today. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. See ya!